And welcome back to Life Hacks for Lasting Love. My name's Steve. This is my beautiful wife, Lyn. We've been married for 30 odd years, 32 years and 3 days. Best 32 years of my life. We had the joy of raising 4 kids. Today we'd like to talk about what we did with the two boys. We did, as they each turned 13, we carried out what we have called a rite of passage. A symbolic handing of the boys from their mother to their father. We took each of the boys away. We took a bunch of our friends, their friends, my friends. Basically, we went camping for a weekend, and what I had my friends do was teach the boys something they didn't know anything about. I had a terrific friend teach Caleb about theory of flight. Their grandfather taught them about knot tying. There were lots of other different topics that they went through. Rites of passage for boys has been something that's occurred in societies all over the world, civilized, uncivilized, third world, first world, forever. It's a thing that's really gone from our society. Lyn picked this one up almost as an instruction from God, and we went through with it, and we think it was probably one of the best things we ever did for our boys. They got that they were able to come to me to talk about things from here forward. Mostly they still talk to their mother. They didn't desert her at all. And it went very, very well as a symbolic turning point in life for those young men. To the point where Lyn and I are seriously considering, for the fact where we have started a business, we haven't done any work on it yet, taking tours through places like Ireland, through Scandinavia, father and son, where the father might be in his 40s and the son's in his mid-teens, or where the father is in his 70s and the son is in his mid-40s. Doing tours through Ireland, breweries, boats, bridges, battlefields, castles, that sort of stuff. The sort of stuff we don't get here in Australia at all, because here in Australia we think that 200 years is a long time, whereas in Europe they think 200 kilometres is a long way. I took my father away for his 70th birthday, took him to Fraser Island, for those who've been there, and we had an absolute ball. I rounded up 10 of his mates and himself, flew them in from all over the country, went camping on Fraser Island. It was a rite of passage for me. It was a thank you to him, not only from me, but from all his friends, who really enjoyed being there with him for his last great trip. Sadly, I lost him a few years ago. Your turn.
My turn. So basically one of the things we're looking at, and we're hearing now things like the Peter Pan syndrome, or that men especially are finding it hard to move into those next stages. And so from a sociological point of view, started looking at other cultures, other indigenous cultures, and going, we've actually lost the right to celebrate the different stages when we grow up. Erickson talks about that from a psychological point of view, that we have different stages that we go through, and that we have to learn these different attributes, I suppose. And so for me, I really wanted to be able to help the boys celebrate moving into those teenage years, but then also realizing that they needed at the other end, around that 23, 24 years of age, to then move into manhood. And it was really interesting as I was doing the research, because I love researching, I started seeing that, the very first step was actually, as women, we actually needed to let go. We needed to let go of our boys and entrust them to a group of men. For the men, because as women we will do things differently, we say things differently as well, and we think differently. And so it was really saying, here, men, please take my son, and I trust you to lead him and teach him in the ways of becoming a man. As a woman, I've been able to teach him to be a great boy, but he needed just that little bit more. And it doesn't mean that our role has finished, not at all. We're there to help in other ways, but those practical things, those things of asking those questions that really they needed a man to talk about. I looked at our history, and Australia is known often as the fatherless society. We came over as convicts. Then, we had the depressions, we had the wars. There's a lot of times where fathers haven't been there to be able to bring up their sons. And so I was really going, how do we really get that message across of how important the role of the father is? And it really was stepping back and going, it is actually embracing the father and saying to the men, please stand up. And it was really interesting because as I was starting to research this, I think we started off, Steve's was in the building industry at this stage, and the first day I came home from work and was talking about my research, I think there was about 3 or 4 men sitting in the carport wanting to know information. The next week there was 6. The next week there was sort of 10, and it just kept swelling. And, I was looking at, what would we be doing? How would that look? And the excitement amongst the men was actually probably the more fascinating part. Then yes, it was great for our son Jake at that time, but it was the men really feeling, wow, this is something I could offer. And I was asking them, what is it do you think a young boy needs to learn? And it was like how to reverse a trailer was one, how to read the currents and the rips in the ocean, how to work out to what type of clouds there were, to work out the weather. And it was really fascinating to see these men collectively almost having a voice, and then saying, okay, to go away and actually teach out my son. And at that time it was feeling like I'm trusting my role as a mum, that I've done my part. I'm still there, but I've done my part in what I could teach. And now it was up to entrusting them over to a group of men, right down to our faith is important. The boys actually choose to give their hearts to the Lord in a way that was public. We did water baptisms.
Water baptism for them.
And with their choice, and that was working through that, saying that, they don't have to walk alone, that they have Jesus that they can walk with, but they actually have a company of men who are there.
They each have a bunch of blokes, and most of those guys are still in their lives. And they know that if they have something going on, they can reach out to those men. Those men who are my friends, my workmates, became their friends and their workmates.
And their uncles.
Well, not workmates, but they became their uncles. They became comfortable being around grown men in a social situation.
And I think really where we saw it happen most is their relationship with their grandfathers. That it just really cemented that generational inheritance, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like the boys could actually go and talk to either of their grandfathers saying, hey, I'm struggling with this, or what do you think of this idea? And especially as parents, we're in that busy stage, we're working full time, we've got other children as well. But it really helped them to sort of go seeking advice, and how important it was to actually ask for advice.
They became mates with their grandfathers, which was something that we thought was really important. It was a side effect that we weren't expecting. It certainly wasn't planned, but it was a terrific side effect that we were very, very happy about.
And we really looked at our family history and looked at, and especially for the Bairds, because our boys are Bairds, and really looked at, what is it that we wanted to pass on. And we certainly have done that with our nephews as well. And really found out that for Baird, the motto is Dominus Facit, which simply means the Lord made. So it was really praying that blessing over each of our boys and saying, hey, guys, dream big. You have a destiny. And for anyone watching this, you all do. Everybody has a destiny. Everybody has dreams in their hearts. So find those dreams, invest in those dreams, ask people to help you with those dreams, talk about them, so that you can be all that you have been called to be.
Can't see. Thank you. So, just a thought for everybody out there, a rite of passage for your sons and for your fathers. Spend some time with them. We're not going to live here forever. We're not going to be here forever. We just really enjoyed showing the boys the path to manhood.
And it doesn't stop there. And I think you might be asking, why are we going overseas? part of it is that most of us, if we look at our DNA or where we've come from other countries. And it's taking hold of those stories, those cultures, because feeling cultural connectedness is really important.
Viking stock and Scotland.
So thank you, and see you next week.
Appreciate you calling in. Bye.
Bye.